Good evening. Welcome to a very special program, the first in our series of surveys ahead of the Karnataka elections, where we try to gauge the mood of people in the state on key issues ahead of this crucial election. I'm Vishnu Shor.
And I'm Raghav here to support Vishnu as he tries to decipher a poll-bound southern state. On this program, we'll be focusing on the big questions. What are the key issues? Assessment of the work of the state government, what people think about contentious issues which have defined the run-up to these elections, such as the quota decision and the Tipu Sultan controversy. In part 2 of this series tomorrow, we will bring you even questions like who the most popular candidate for chief minister is in that state.
So let's just firstly give you a few details on this NDTV Lokniti CSDS poll and how exactly it happens, because as we embark on such a crucial sort of project, let's bring you a couple of details. Now, the survey was conducted between the 20th of April and the 28th of April. A total of 2,143 voters were asked questions. These voters were spread across 82 polling stations and randomly selected 21 assembly constituencies. The interviews were conducted face-to-face, right? No phone calls here, at the electors' homes by field investigators who spent a lot of time in doing this. The questionnaire, in case you were wondering, was translated into Kannada. It took between 15 to 20 minutes for each interview to be completed, because the data we've got, Veera Raghav, is fairly extensive. And I think the length of the interviews reflects that. But though the sample size is relatively small, the sample, we believe, is truly representative of voters of Karnataka in terms of social composition.
That's right. What the profile of the people who have been surveyed is also extremely important. The man who's led that entire exercise, Sanjay Kumar of Lokniti CSDS, is here with us. Sanjay, just take us through quickly as to why this is a special survey, an important one, and how it's different from another survey done by another organization.
I think 3 points. First, even though the sample is small, but it is a representative sample of the voters of Karnataka. If you look at in terms of men, women, rural, urban and other variables, it is a truly representative sample of the Karnataka voters. That makes this survey special. Second, it's a face-to-face interview. These days, lots of people are doing surveys on telephones and I don't know, several other means. But this is a face-to-face interview. Vishnu has already mentioned about that. Third, it's a long questionnaire which has been administered to the people and in a Kannada language. I come across a lot of people who do surveys in other states. Sitting in Delhi, they don't even know how to speak the language of that state. So these 3 things make this survey very, very special.
All right. Well, we're going to quickly introduce our guests and then the action is going to begin. So we've got a great panel. Sugata Srinivas Raju with us, Manisha Priyam, Sanjal Shastri, Sanjay Kumar we've already introduced, Professor James Manna, the political scientist with us, Nagaraju Yadav of the Congress Party, Channa Mallikarjun B. Patil of the BJP. And let's now start by bringing you the first set of graphics on this poll. What we are looking at are the single most important voting issues in the Karnataka elections. So let's bring those graphics up first. We're trying to decode public opinion. So the single most important voting issue in these elections, wait for it, here it comes. 28% of people said unemployment, 25% said poverty, 7% said lack of development, 7% said inflation, education 7%, 6% said the corruption issue. One would have thought it may have been more. And then we had no responses in 1%. So just look at that. Unemployment is the dominant issue. Poverty at 25%. Veera Raghav, we want to go through the next one?
I think the most important aspect of this is also that when you're talking of unemployment, you're talking of voters 18 to 25, 38%. Amongst all voters, 28% said unemployment is their major issue. Voters 18 to 25 said 38% of them said unemployment is their major issue. Yes, as you mentioned, Vishnu, it's an important aspect given the discourse around corruption. Yet unemployment remains the top issue. Let's just get a quick response from our panelists on that, Vishnu, before we go forward. Sanjay, does this mean that the voter turns around and says, look, I don't say that corruption is not an issue, but till I don't have a job and till I don't have food, I don't want to think about corruption?
This is a question on which is the one important issue on which you are likely to vote for. And large number of people, as the survey suggests, said unemployment. It's not that people are not worried about corruption. Let me give you a data. We have done surveys in large number of states. Out of the 13 states where we asked this question about corruption has increased or decreased, I'm not including Karnataka in that. In 12 out of 13 states, people mentioned that the corruption has increased during the last 5 years of the government. But out of these, a very large number of state governments got re-elected because this is not an election issue. People are not voting on this issue, but that doesn't mean that people are not concerned about corruption.
No, but Manisha, that really is the key point, isn't it?
No,
that
no,
when it comes to political parties, the Congress could have been going hell for leather on the entire corruption issue, but when it comes to people and their needs on the ground, jobs is the most important.
Jobs seem to be very important, and I think this is really something that should come out as being shocking. Bangalore is the poster boy city for the globe. The Silicon Valley connects with Bangalore and reinvents value. If you go to the city, you will find, you know, the young millennials from all over the country with their backpacks, their statehood, so to say, hidden under the banner, as much for the educated as for the footloose labor that constructs the mega millennial buildings that you see.
You pointed about Bangalore. In this CSDS poll, 30% of rural voters say unemployment is an issue. Only 19% in the cities say it's an unemployment issue. There is that divide as well. And then there is much more data, right, Vishnu?
25% of all voters. So between unemployment and poverty, that seems to be, it's the economy.
Which it is an economic
agenda. Is that your sense as well?
Yes, I do agree. It is, especially what the data suggests in more rural settings and in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, if you go like Mangalore, Mysore or Shimoga, one of the issues is that youth who are, it's almost in every family, they're first generation university graduates and they do not have jobs. And this is an issue when interacting with youth in Dakshin Kannada, which is in coastal Karnataka. It came out to be a major concern for a lot of youngsters that which does lead to then a lot of frustration.
Okay, just half a second. I know you want to come in, but I think what's related to this is the entire issue of price rise. It's also part of the economy. So let's have that graphic up on the screen. The entire issue of price rise. The question asked, has price rise increased or decreased in your area in the last 5 years? 67% have said that it has increased. So 67% have said it's increased, 9% have said that it's decreased. Only 9%, 23 same as before. So between same as before and a 67% jump, it's quite significant. Veera.
That's right. And also move forward to issues like corruption, right? It may not be the single most important issue on which voters are casting their ballot, but it is still an issue. Look at this. Corruption has increased. 51% people agree that corruption has increased. 35% say it has remained the same. 11% say it's decreased. Now, interestingly, amongst those who traditionally support the Congress or the BJP, the traditional Congress supporters say 50% corruption have increased. Traditional BJP supporters, 41% traditional BJP supporters. These are ruling party supporters in the state who say that corruption has increased. 73% of JDS supporters say corruption has increased. Non-committed voters, 57% say corruption has increased. By and large, everyone says corruption has increased, but it's not the single most important issue when it comes to voting.
It's clearly not, but I wanted to just go across to Mr. Nagaraju Yadav of the Congress party. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
So just on this entire point, that even supporters of the BJP say that corruption has actually gone up. Your supporters, of course, quite clearly indicate that it has. How would you reflect on this pattern?
It is a known fact. 6.5 Kannadigas today in Karnataka has seen the way corruption is going around for past 3.5, 4 years time, from the time BJP has come to power. Mr. Modi and Bommai kept on saying the double engine Sarkar is going to not tolerate they said they will eat nor they'll allow anybody to eat. But the order of the day was this, that everyday corruption, all segments, all portfolios of the ministry, which the Kannadigas don't accept. That's the reason you see the Congress supporters, you see the JDS supporters, you see BJP supporters. All put together is nothing but Kannadigas. Nobody in the Karnataka state wants to accept this corruption. It's become high, all-time high of corruption. Unemployment rate is becoming so high, people cannot even live in Bangalore today.
Okay.
They can't pay the rents, they can't pay their petrol, they can't
All right,
pay
we're
for
trying to get
transport.
the
They
BJP
can't-
on as well.
Too difficult.
We'll get the BJP on as well in a moment from now. But let me just go, but you had a question, go ahead.
No, to Shugata Srinivasaraju, and I think it's important. Shugata, on the ground, what do you see the sense is? You may have had a campaign run by the Congress on 40% Sarkar XYZ. People agree that corruption is an issue, but it's not the issue that voters are going to decide their vote on. Is this completely on expected lines, Shugata?
This is completely on expected lines, Veera. See, when you ask an individual if corruption is a very big issue, he would certainly say yes. But when it comes to voting, it's been the experience with Karnataka for a very long time. Even in 2013, after Yadurappa had gone to jail and then the Reddy brothers had been put into jail and all that, still the election was not, won on the basis of corruption. It was something else. There were a lot of other factors that sort of played a crucial role in the emergence of the Congress in 2013. Yadurappa had broken away.
Right.
So when you ask an individual, he is bound to say that corruption has gone up. But when you sort of speak to him, when he actually goes to the polling booth,
Yep.
he may not consider that to be the single most issue.
Okay, just hold that thought for a moment because we do have Channa Mallikarjun Patil. Mr. Patil, thanks very much for being with us. If you look at the numbers, then even your supporters, 41% of them seem to indicate, and they have said in this survey of ours, that corruption has increased. Of course, the Congress says 50% of Congress voters in this poll have said that it has increased. JDS a whopping 73%. But the fact that 41% of BJP supporters say corruption has increased, is that a concern for you?
Vishnu, good evening. My previous panelist was mentioning, how it impacts at the ground level. I'll just, I was also checking out your previous slide, wherein which you mentioned about the poverty as well. Okay, the state has been ruled by Congress and for almost 55 plus years. Okay, what has happened over a period of time? If you take the INC's present president, Mr. Kharge's region, which is called the Kalyana Karnataka. So all in all is 60 plus years of political career, what he could deliver to his home constituency.
Yep.
Was elevator in the railway station and a building for an hospital. So that's what he delivered in the 60 years, and he kept the Congress, which was not just the double engine Sarkar. It was ruling from
No, but I understand what you're saying.
I'm coming to the, I'm coming. Vishnu, I know, you are smart. You avoided the first part and I'll come to the corruption.
No, but sir, I can't ask you. I'm asking you about corruption.
Yeah, I'll come to that. I'll definitely come to that.
So please go ahead with that. There's lots to discuss.
I'll just finish that quickly and then come to the corruption part of it. Okay, the corruption part of the Congress. I'll just finish.
I think we're a little early.
I'll finish off the corruption part and then go to the development part.
We're a little early in the
I'm
evening.
talking about Mallikarjun Kharge himself, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge himself. That is what he delivered in last 60 years, and that's the amount of corruption. Okay.
All right. So the Congress versus the BJP on the issue of corruption. I need to go through the data, sir. It's not a monologue on this program. I'll come back to you in a bit. All right, both of you wait. We're going to move on to the next set of graphics, which deals with a really important issue, the issue of reservation.
That's right. This is the last-minute decision of the BJP government.
Did you think it was going to be the dominant issue, reservation? In
Well,
the
there was an
minds of-
attempt that it was. It wasn't clear how it was going to play out. Let's look at the opinion poll and the numbers that have come out on this. How many people have heard about the change in that reservation policy? 33%, Vishnu, say that they have only heard. It's only 33%. Despite all that public discourse around it, only 33% say that they were aware of this decision taken by the Karnataka government. This is a highly contentious issue, but yet Remember, only 33%. Now, amongst the different voting blocks, and this is important, and this is really the revealing part of the data, separate reservation for the Lingayats, 28% fully supported, 45% some support. So there is an overwhelming support for reservation for Lingayats, that's increasing reservation for Lingayats, increasing reservation for Vokkaligas, 27% fully supported, 37% some support, increasing the quota for scheduled castes, 27% fully supported, 30% some support, increasing the quota for scheduled tribes, 26% fully supported, 41% some support. But when it came to the last question of quashing the 4% quota for the Muslims, 23% only fully supported it, 25% some support, which means that, Sanjay, more than 50% of people were not in favor of quashing the quota for Muslims, but they are in support of increasing quota for the other caste groups.
Yes, I think this is a very contentious issue. It's not only about Karnataka. If you pose this question in any other state, I think there is a great divide on the issue of reservation. If you look at the data, if we analyze the data carefully, there is a great divide. People who are in support of the new reservation policy proposed by the current BJP government, they are heavily tilted in favor of BJP. They are intending that they would support BJP. But all those people who are opposed to the new initiative, they seems to be tilted in favor of Congress.
Is
48%.
It really depends on who you're asking this question to, right? If a question like this is asked to a Vokkaliga, he or she would likely say, yes, please go ahead, we want more reservation, right?
Vishnu,
So
that is what we have mentioned right at the beginning. This is a representative sample of the voters of Karnataka. The sample would have as many Vokkaligas as there would be in the population of Karnataka. So it is a representative sample. It's not that the Vokkaliga question has been asked only to the Vokkaligas, vice versa.
You know, the reservation part has two elements to it. One is to get into educational institutions. In a state where private educational institutions really don the map of Karnataka, what is a reservation for public universities going to give you anyways? And the second part is, if the overall scenario of the government jobs, the public sector jobs is not increasing, there will be. So you've got to see the reservation together with this. Professor James Maynard is here. The other part is history. In Karnataka, all these groups that you're talking about they have enjoyed some amount of reservation or the other. So you're really talking to those who've already been there. Now increasing that pie somewhat more is not the real solution. The real solution is in the question that you've asked, the unemployment data. The other part of that was when you've asked the youth, they've said, okay, a little less.
I think that is the big takeaway.
That
to
is
me,
the main
these questions,
takeaway.
they come back with an economic
But over 50%
dilemma.
in the other age group said, no, employment is not a good scenario for us. Which means the Samaj of Karnataka together, the old, the young together are telling you that unemployment is a huge issue.
But look at the data here. Strong support amongst the BJP, and we are talking of trying to consolidate particular voting blocks, right? And I'll pose this question to Shugata Srinivasaraju as well as to Professor James Manner. When it comes to the BJP supporters, and Sanjay, 48% of BJP supporters are in strong support for increasing reservation for Lingayats. 59% strong support of increasing reservation for Vokkaligas. 45% for scheduled castes, 51% for the scheduled tribes, and as far as quashing quota reservation for Muslims, 52% of BJP supporters are in favor of it. So, Shugata, was this move, as far as it was taken, a last-minute move, and I'll get James Manner as well on it, was this last-minute move designed to consolidate the BJP's core vote base and not really change the larger narrative of Karnataka? How do you see this playing out on the grassroots?
So this is a very complicated thing to comment on, Veer, because we don't know whether it's going to benefit the BJP or it's going to anger everybody, because nobody seems to be entirely happy with the whole thing. Although the 4% quota that was given to Muslims, that was sort of bifurcated to 2% was allocated to Lingayats and Vokkaligas. There's a lot of confusion on the ground. Whomever you speak to does not really know how to respond to this. But Manisha ji was speaking about unemployment and that is more important and all that. But caste quota is not really about, a direct benefit or whatever. It's also about pride and sentiment and identity. So, it works in a very complicated fashion in Karnataka, and caste is central. It is, I think it's going to be very important And I can give you an analogy of 1994. See, Veerappa Moily tried to do something very similar, and he failed completely. The Congress got the lowest numbers in 1994. That is the election when Deve Gowda emerged as the chief minister. So, he was trying to please every community that was there, and that's exactly what Bommai has tried to do. So we really don't know how it will play out. But this time, what the BJP has interestingly done is it has offered internal reservation inside big communities. I think that is the central question. It's not about increasing reservation to, it's speaking about communities in general, but about what happens to internal reservation. Dalits have got internal reservation. Lingayats have got internal reservation. And, notionally, the percentage of the quota has gone up for Okaligas and Lingayats.
But I think, when it comes to the entire issue of reservations, it's the entire issue of the reservations being taken away from members of the Muslim community, being split between the Vokaliga and the Lingayats at 2% each. Of course, it's not happened after the court ruling. It's still they're still looking into this issue. But in terms of the quashing of reservations for Muslims, if we can try and pull up that graphic, in terms of strong support, it is quite something. 30%, yeah.
30% strong support, 52% amongst BJP followers.
The entire issue of quashing of reservations for Muslims, I think that is interesting and important, where, the data that you were just pointing out, Congress party, 30% strongly support the quashing, right? In the BJP, 52%, right? And strong opposition, obviously, first in the Congress at 42%, but there is opposition within the BJP as well at 27%. Is this, how would you look at this?
Let me clarify. The way data should be read, among those who strongly support quashing of reservation for Muslim, 52% intended to vote for BJP.
Right. Yeah.
And among those who are strong, who are opposing this,
yeah,
among them 42% intended to vote for Congress. It's not that their supporters, the BJP supporters.
Sure.
So this is the way. If the voters who are opposed to this decision, they are in favor of Congress. Voters who are supporting that, yes, it's the right thing to do, reservation for Muslims have been quashed. Among them, 52% have intended that they are likely to vote for BJP.
But is that 33% number significant? That 33% of everybody sampled actually said they were aware of it. Do you consider that to be a high amount of knowledge or a low amount of awareness on this issue?
I think it would be considered as a moderate amount of information on this subject, because it's not 10 or 15%. If it was just 10 or 15%, I would have said it's a very low level of awareness. If it was more than 50%, then it would have been seen as sizable number of people aware of this issue.
So we're talking about Tipu.
Yeah, I think we'll just play out this other data as well before we slip into a break and look at other issues. Let's look at the other big question, as I was pointing out. It's the controversy around Tipu Sultan. You have the BJP campaigning extensively in the old Mysore region around this. You had controversies coming up. You had a strong response from JDS. Did it increase communal tensions? That was the question that was posed. And yes, 74%. No, say 22%. So it did have an impact on the ground. It has increased tensions. Whether that turns into a vote or not, we don't know. Then, amongst those of different parties, that is the Congress, BJP, JDS, Vishnu, was the raising of the issue justified? That was the question that was posed. 30% of Congress supporters said it was justified. 54% of BJP.
No. If you look at the data, it said all those who say it is fully justified, among them 30% intended to vote for Congress.
That's right.
And 54% intended to vote for BJP.
That's right.
It's not that among the Congress supporters, these many have supported or opposed.
Oh, you're saying it's
so
the reverse
30%
way.
of those who are likely to vote for the Congress party have said this, whereas 54%...
Among the supporters. You first take the supporters, and amongst the supporters, 30% of those who supported who said that the move is justified, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. 30% of the people who said that the move to raise the Tipu controversy was justified said that they will vote for the Congress. 54% said they will vote for the BJP. 14%
for the JDS.
said they will vote for the JDS.
See, the data clearly indicates the divide on this issue. If you feel that this is the right thing to do, raising this issue was justified, then they are tilted in favor of BJP. All those voters who believe that this was not an issue which should be raised, they are all tilted in favor of Congress. That's the divide which is clearly coming out from this data.
All right, we'll come back to that topic in a moment. It's time for us to take a short break. There's a lot more coming up, including the divide or the apparent divide between Bengaluru and North Karnataka. Also some other key issues. How are people assessing how the government has performed in key themes, key issues, key programs? All of that and a lot more. That's up next. Well, welcome back. What we've been doing over the last half an hour, and we've got another half an hour left, is we are going through this fabulous data which has been compiled for us to actually look at some of the key issues and what people think of them ahead of the Karnataka elections. What we'd like to turn our attention now is on the issue of regional discrimination. Will this be a factor as far as these elections are concerned in Karnataka? So let's just bring up that graphic and see what it actually says. So does regional discrimination, is that a factor? 28% say that they were given fair treatment, so compared to other regions. North Karnataka is 28% say fair treatment, 41% say that they were disadvantaged, 12% is the other number, 19% have no response. So 41% of those said that they had been discriminated compared to other regions. North Karnataka was discriminated. On what basis would you say that this discrimination exists? On what grounds? Economic grounds, policy grounds, what grounds?
I think it's a mix of economic grounds and also broader historical factors. If you look at the development indicators, North Karnataka generally lags behind the southern and coastal Karnataka regions. So the sense of the sense of differential treatment could possibly stem from that broader factor that there is a lag in terms of development indicators and overall economic and social progress when you compare the southern Karnataka or even coastal Karnataka to northern parts of Karnataka. And that's got to do on one hand with government policies as well as broader historical legacies of the colonial administration of these regions. And
We've got another graphic, Bengaluru. Would you like to just quickly go through that? It's up on our screen here.
That's right, Vishnu. Amongst the different regions of Karnataka, has Bengaluru been given more importance? 66% say yes, Bengaluru has been given more importance, and I think it's actually a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it, Sanjay? Most people would say Bengaluru has been given more importance, even those in Mysore or in other smaller cities as well. Less importance, has Bengaluru been given less importance? Interestingly, 16% people actually think Bengaluru has been given less importance. I don't know, where do you find those 16%? Do you have an idea on those who actually think that Bengaluru has been given less importance to the rest of Karnataka?
See, these are perception. This is not, we cannot check it with with other facts. This is a perception survey. What do people feel? A very large majority of people in Karnataka believe that yes, Bengaluru gets a fair treatment or more than what they deserve. These 16%, we can check out the background, but I think it's about perception. People also believe that maybe Bengaluru needs to be developed more.
Professor James Banner, thanks very much for being with us. What are your thoughts on this entire issue of a perceived difference between Bengaluru and other parts of Karnataka? Do people in other areas who feel that they're somewhat disadvantaged versus those who live in Bengaluru, could this be an issue that affects their vote?
Yes, it's long been an issue. It troubled S.M. Krishna when he was chief minister, and other chief ministers have also worried about this. I think the thing that is striking about the interregional perceptions is this idea in northern Karnataka that 41% of the people there thought it had been discriminated against. This in a period in which a party with its base in northern Karnataka, the BJP, was in power. This should worry the government seeking re-election. Elections in Karnataka are won and lost in the rural constituencies of northern and central Karnataka, always. And in that connection, I think the government might also worry about the fact that 30% of rural respondents said that unemployment was a serious issue, and 30% of the same said that poverty was a serious issue. This after several years of BJP government. This at a time when Congress has a number of programs targeting people who are worried about jobs and poverty. So I think the responses received in this survey are slightly worrying for the government.
And it's important that you make that point that, on unemployment and poverty as well. And Professor Manna, do you think over the years, this regional discrimination that we're talking about or difference between the regions have increased in Karnataka? Because you've had several issues raised around this. Do you feel it's increased? What do you think directionally is happening at the grassroots?
Well, Bangalore has been growing like mad for a very long time, and therefore, economically speaking, the area around Bangalore and in Bangalore itself has become more prosperous, and the inequalities, potential inequalities between the greater Bangalore and the rural areas has increased. On the other hand, successive governments, knowing that they must win elections in northern and central Karnataka's rural districts, successive governments have developed programs to try to tackle the inequality and ease the troubles in those regions.
Sure.
But this survey suggests that there's a great deal of discontent about those issues, and I think this should worry the BJP.
Yeah. Channa Mallikarjun Patil, would you like to respond to that? On the issue of poverty, on the issue of unemployment, and also on this entire issue of a disparity between Bengaluru and other parts of the state. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. I was trying to answer on that. Make my points. Now coming to the, I don't say it's, absolutely, there is disparity a little bit. But what has happened? Let me complete. There is disparity because the Congress ruled it for almost 50 years. I'll give some examples. If you take Kalyana Karnataka, for example, now we have, there are 7 districts, which is the most backward region. Kalyana Karnataka is the most backward region. Now Bidar has an airport. Raichur is coming up with the airport. Koppala is coming up with the airport. Kalburgi has an airport, which is the costliest ticket in the country right now. So Bangalore to Kalburgi is the most costliest. In those 7 districts, if you look at those 7 districts, there are 4 airports. That's the kind of vision which has come in terms of bringing it to the level of Bangalore. One. Second is textile park has been announced recently by the Prime Minister, which will generate around 1 lakh employment. Not just that, this region is not poor in terms of its own natural resources.
Right.
There are a large number of resources. There is only 1 gold producing mine in Raichur.
Right.
Now what is happening in terms of like Madam mentioned about the private engineering colleges and the medical colleges. There are a large number of, but what has happened in those 65 years, not much of development like what the Prime Minister.
All right, I think the Congress wants to respond to that. Mr.
Yes,
Nagaraju,
please.
Mr. Nagaraju Yadav, very quickly, sir.
I would like to respond. I like to respond now. The BJP spokesperson was talking about Kalyan Karnataka development issue. He should not forget Kamalajikaran Kharge hails from there and is the AICC president. He is responsible to get 371J in place, so the number of employments have been increased and the jobs have been given to the people of Kalyan Karnataka. And also the hospital, medical college, dental college, all these developments are done by Kharge. When Kharge was there representing there the union minister. And now coming to the unemployment issue, the entire state of Karnataka, we have seen the unemployment, the rate is so high and the poverty rates are increasing. People are not having jobs and the price rise is so high People cannot even afford to start a small business.
Let's just hold that thought for a moment. I think we can just wait for a Congress versus BJP match in a bit. Let's go through.
No. I'm not making it Congress versus BJP. Let me be very clear. I'm not sitting here to allegate anybody as such. The Chief Minister Burmai comes to
Okay, sir, we get your point, and we get the point of the BJP as well. Let us move to the next graphic. We're running short on time. Both of you have contrarian views on who is developed and who is not. That's expected. Let's take a look at the next set of graphics that we have. That's welfare schemes, beneficiaries of various welfare schemes of the central government. What exactly does the data show? Essentially, we are looking to see what people actually have to say. So, percentage of beneficiaries in Manrega. Sanjay, how would you have us read this graphic? 31% say what Manrega has worked, has been effective.
And amongst those who
benefited.
vote benefited.
It's very simple. Vishnu, 31% of the people in Karnataka said they have benefited from Manrega.
Right.
Similarly for various other schemes which is there on the screen.
Ayushman Bharat Yojana is at 32%.
So roughly you can say for a large number of schemes, the number of beneficiaries range from say 20% to 30%. For some it is slightly more than 20%, 30% and some little less than 20%.
And when it comes to state government beneficiaries of welfare schemes that are run by the state government, the Bhagya Lakshmi Yojana for BPL families, you got 45% who said that they've benefited. Out of that 45 intended to vote for the BJP, 44%.
44% or 45% intended to vote.
And 32% for the Congress, free cycle of the government's 40. So in an effect, the state government welfare schemes seem to have reached more than the central government welfare schemes?
Yes, overall I think there is a lot of talk these days about what we call beneficiaries, in Hindi labharthis. So what is happening is that if you look at the state government scheme, the reach of the state government is much more compared to the reach of the central government, and there is a clear divide. There is something called, what we are getting from the data, labharthi, which is to say people who are benefiting from the central government and the state government seems to be voting for the ruling party, the party which has delivered these schemes, and people who have not benefited.
So even when it comes to Manrega, for example, 46% of those who backed it intend to vote for the BJP, far less for the Congress. Similarly, PM Awas Yojana, 43 versus 34 for the Congress.
Yes.
The Ujjwala scheme, 43. So that is along predictable lines. I mean, if you are going to be voting for the opposition, you wouldn't necessarily favor a central government scheme.
Yes, Vishnu, we have been asking these questions over a period of time. 5 years ago, we never used to see such a sharp distinction. But I think now it has got crystallized. The beneficiaries are mostly tilted in favor of the ruling party. So that's the new trend we are witnessing in Indian elections now.
And I think the big thing is also the next question, the assessment of the government's work. And this is an extremely important graphic to look at. It's a very important question, voters' assessment of the development work done by the BJP government in Karnataka. Improved, say 52% as far as roads are concerned. Electricity supply, 46% say they've improved. 51% say drinking water has improved. Remain the same, say 31% for roads, 43% for electricity supply, and 35% for drinking water.
So there's a disparity over there between what people have, how they assess, Manisha, central schemes and how they assess local schemes, where among the people, when it comes to school, electricity, etc., roads, local government schemes, people tend to say that in many cases they've done well. But these are the same people who have problems, right, with the central schemes, right?
This is, Vishnu, this is the assessment of the government's work on the ground. One is the welfare schemes, Vishnu, which is a separate part.
We were talking about double engine sarkar. So the assessment should have matched for the state government
exactly, and it's not.
Government.
That's the point I'm raising.
So that's one part. The second part, maybe we can engage Sugata on this. I mean, the Bhagya and the Purna schemes for Siddha.
Yes.
So, prominent, the Matri Purna, the Annapurna, the Indira canteens. Now you see a rejig of these. So what I get to definitely understand is that without providing a basic floor level of development and welfareism, not just development as in roads, etc., but basic welfareism, that threshold has to be provided by all political parties. Without that, you cannot get through. Now, by itself, whether it will get you ahead of that or not, and whether one party scheme is different or more clearly targeted at beneficiaries, I think there is a catch or trick. If you look at the manifestos of what the BJP is promising now, like 3 cylinders only free for the Hindu calendar festivals of Ugadi, Diwali and one more, and 3 cylinders free, versus the Congress really targeting it neat and clean on unemployment doles, one for a woman transfer. So far more of the in-kind transfers being promised from the BJP, which was so much of a cash transfer party. The Congress now clearly targeting and saying, here it is, if you're educated and unemployed, here are the ways in which we will provide you unemployment allowance. So I think that's the difference.
Just adding to those points further, as far as the data is concerned, this is another thing. Satisfaction with performance, voters' assessment of overall performance of state and central government, satisfaction with performance of work done by the BJP government of Karnataka, 27% fully satisfied. As far as the BJP government at the center, 24% fully satisfied. Somewhat satisfied, 36% as far as Karnataka is concerned, 42% as far as the central government is concerned. Dissatisfied fully, 19% as far as Karnataka government and 20% as far as the central government is concerned. This is very important, and I think, Shugata, there has been a narrative of the anti-incumbency at the state level. Now you see that state government work has actually got greater approval than central government in several cases. How do you see this playing out at the grassroots? Work has happened, but there is still a sense of anti-incumbency that one sees at the grassroots.
Yeah, thank you, Veera. Going by the rhetoric, this is quite surprising. This graphic is very interesting because it completely counters the narrative that has been there. So if you go by these numbers, then I think the projections that are being made for the BJP are inaccurate. They will sort of probably get a higher number of seats. If the satisfaction levels are what is being projected here, I think the BJP will end up with a little more seats than expected. It also sort of, if you go back to the corruption slide earlier that you showed, corruption is not so much important. It was reflected in the slides that you showed. So that's probably because, the government schemes, there is a direct money transfer happening. And, people, if you look at fully satisfied and somewhat satisfied, if you aggregate those numbers, I think, there is far less leakage than there used to be, say, a decade ago or more than a decade ago. So I think there is some kind of corrective that has happened here in reaching the schemes to the people. And this certainly is going to change the silent voters here. I think he is going to make a difference.
Sanjay, would you like to comment on that? There is a fair amount of parity between the centre and the state in terms of people appreciating the projects, etc., or the schemes which the governments have done.
Vishnu, before that, if you go back to the previous slide, you look on the two issues, which is about the road and the drinking water. There is a clear endorsement for the work done by the state government. 52%, 51%, a majority believe it has improved. If you look at electricity supply, tilted in favor of positive opinion, but it's a very close divide, 46-43. But if you look at the government hospitals and government school, more people, a very large number of people believe that it has remained the same.
Or deteriorated 21%.
That is the reflection on the overall question which we asked in the survey. Overall, how do you assess the work done by the state government and the central government? And you clearly see that the level of satisfaction is 1/4 roughly are fully satisfied, another 30-35% are somewhat satisfied. But look at the proportion of voters who are fully dissatisfied. They are also in the range of 20%. So this is the reflection that there is a divided opinion on how people believe, how people feel about the work done by the state government.
Is that your big takeaway, by the way, from in terms of the questions which we've looked at so far? That there is, you can't really point a particular strong trend. You can identify issues, but does this indicate, key themes which might actually influence the vote?
Very difficult to say, Vishnu, which is the one most important factor in this survey or most interesting, which one is going to influence more the voting choices. All these, if you look at all the analysis, there is a great divide in terms of people's choice about which party they are likely to vote for. And that choice is guided by their opinion on how they assess the work done by the government, how they feel about the issue on reservation, about corruption and several other issues.
Right. I think it's now time to, Vishnu, get the two political guests who are waiting to battle it out with each other, both at the grassroots as well as on the show, to give us their responses I first go to the Congress spokesperson. Sir, there is a sense that some of the work, as Professor Sanjay is pointing out, as far as roads, electricity supply and drinking water is concerned, the assessment is that the BJP government at the state level has performed. Would you concede that, A, and say that, look, this whole narrative that the entire government has failed on all schemes is maybe wrong? Would you accept?
I will not accept on this basis because I will tell you there is a corruption of 40% and it's been called a 40% sarkar in all infrastructure projects today. That has led the Karnataka government and the people of Karnataka and Kannadiga have been let down today. It's a question of people talking about it every day on every forum. Then the second thing comes to about the corruption. After that, price rise. Price rise is so high, the people of Karnataka cannot live in a rented house today. They're not able to pay the rents. How are they able to pay? What is the price rise of a diesel or a petrol? What is the taxes being charged on that? This was not the case when UPA government was in power. This is not the case when the Congress government was in the state of Karnataka. When Siddaramaiah was in power, we had promised 165 promises. We fulfilled 158 promises. They had promised 600 promises. They have not filled up even 10% of it. What is that? They talk about the development, what they've done. Then come to the safety of women. Then come to the matter of health and school education. They also completely failed. When Corona matter had come up, more than 2,500 crores corruption issues were raised in the floor of the House.
Okay, let's get the Congress, let's get the BJP's response to it. Sir, I'm going to rephrase that question. Do you accept that in some places maybe the government has done work, but there are places where the state government has failed, and that is shown especially when it comes to issues like schools and hospitals?
See, I go by maybe there is a slight increase also. 52%. It might be around 60+% in terms of the overall indices which you have taken in terms of the development and the kind of acceptance of various schemes by the state government. Not just that. My friend from the Congress keeps talking about. They were the people who shut down the Lokayukta, which is an independent body to probe corruption.
Rather, you never started.
We have asked.
High Court of Karnataka has given the order to start to empower the Lokayukta.
We have asked them. We have reinstalled the Lokayukta back in the state, and if they have any corruption issues, they should go to the Lokayukta.
By virtue of a court order.
All right, sir. 1 second. Let him make his point.
You are supposed to.
No, sir. Let's not interrupt each other, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of the overall satisfaction of the people in terms of development, I mentioned a few of them in terms of airport, in terms of the Bharatmala project, in terms of the roads, in terms of the startups.
I understand that, and that is all very welcome. But and in fact, I wanted to bring in Professor Manner on this. Sir, for me, the big takeaway, as far as this part of our survey, and we're doing this tomorrow as well, is concerned, is that this overwhelming focus is on economic issues. If you look at it, 28% say unemployment is the biggest issue. What was the question which was asked? While deciding who is to vote for the coming assembly elections, what will be the single most important selection? Number 1 choice, unemployment. Number 2 choice, poverty. Number 3 choice, lack of development. Number 4 choice, price rise and inflation. These are all linked to the state of the economy. At the end of the day, what does that reflect? That it may not be reservation or Tipu which is going to decide these elections at all.
Yeah, Vishnu, we should also look at the per capita income increase.
Yeah, Professor Manner, go ahead. I'm just asking Professor Manner. Yeah, Professor Manner, go ahead.
Thank you. The findings on the state government's performance in various areas, fairly positive, somewhat positive findings in the survey, may reassure the BJP that it has in fact begun to tackle some of the poverty problems. I don't think this government or any government in recent times has succeeded in tackling the other key issue, and that's the unemployment problem. These are the two things that worry rural voters, and rural voters will decide this election without any question, as they always do in Karnataka. So I think this is a very mixed picture that's emerged, a very nuanced picture, and sophisticated in the great traditions of CSDS Lokniti.
Let's take quick responses from all the other panelists as we are running short of time, right, Vishnu? Shugata Srinivasaraju, the big takeaway for you from whatever findings that we've put out today. We'll be putting out more tomorrow, but today, what is your big takeaway? We'll get a round of reactions from all our panelists.
I mean, I'm fairly surprised about the welfare schemes, the government getting a positive rating on that. And then I'm not really surprised about corruption or inflation sort of making the big, noise about. There's not really big noise about that. So I'm not really surprised about that. But welfare schemes reaching people, I was always suspicious that that's happening and that would create a kind of undercurrent, and that is reflected in the survey.
Sajal, your big takeaway?
I think again, the issue of the welfare schemes, the fact that it is reaching the people as the survey finds and people have responded positively could be a factor that could, the BJP could look at with some element of comfort, but then it still shows how the election is still on very small margins. So
it seems to indicate that.
And remember that a lot of this data is from before the release of manifesto, before the last leg of campaigning, which could potentially... before I get Manisha, Sanjay, do you think that these issues, campaigning could really change the narrative on these issues? Or
no answer to this question at this moment, because the campaigning will go on for next 7-8 days. But I think what I'm getting from the survey is that there still seems to be a disconnect between the issues which are being raised up by the politician during the campaign, whether it is Congress and BJP, because one is talking about 85%, 15%, the other is talking about 40%. Look at the issue. That is an issue of concern, but that's not the voting issue. That's not likely to be the voting issue in Karnataka.
So your message to both the Congress and the BJP spokesperson on the show is don't shout at each other, listen to me. If you listen to me, you'll raise the right issues. Manisha, your...
Certainly, I think it's definitely the economic issues that dominate, the unemployment issue dominates. On the reservation issue, the point about keeping the Muslims out of the quota, that's only working with those who are only your committed voters. So you are giving a divisive agenda to those who are only committed to you, and the divisive agenda is not winning over new voters. And certainly as far as, I don't tailgate statistics, I do my own qualitative, thick, rich, deep fieldwork, as Professor James Miner, our guru, is sitting right there. And I can tell you for sure that you need to win new people over to your side. If you've got to win an election, you need to get new regions onto your side. And what I want to also say about developmentalism, it's not your scheme versus my scheme. If you're able to pinpoint that the serious disaffection is the issue of unemployment, were your welfare schemes targeting any of those grievances? And therefore I feel that the manifestos that the two parties have brought out this time around are clearly very, very sharply focused on how they want to target whom, and is it going to win over new voters to them? Is it going to address some amount of disaffection? So the political parties are talking to the people right now. They are talking more than us, and they are talking with very targeted manifestos which are very different from each other in terms of developmentalism. Whatever be their performance record, both the Congress and the BJP have performance
really interesting.
records.
Because on the one hand, there is satisfaction when it comes to roads and a couple of the other categories, and yet the other larger economic issue. So it's like people saying that it's wonderful that we've got better roads now. It's wonderful that we have better infrastructure now. And political parties will actually say that, no, that's very good. But if you look at the core issues of the economy, then they aren't perhaps being tackled in the way that people want them to be tackled at all. I'd like to thank all of our guests very much for being with us. Veera and I are going to be back tomorrow with a lot more data.
Possibly more interesting numbers will come out tomorrow, including one which will rate who the top candidate choice for chief minister is, who the top leader is in the state, the popularity contest. And that's interesting. That will come up tomorrow, Vishnu. And I'm sure there will be a lot of debate around that.
Absolutely. That's going to be the big buzz. I'd like to thank you very much for being with us. And I'd also very much like to thank Lokniti CSDS for this very comprehensive look at these numbers ahead of the elections. We'll take a short break. More coming up.